Greetings and welcome back to the Casey Lartigue Show. My name is Casey Lartigue, host of the show. My co-host is Eliot Morgan. The call-in number is 1-866-801-8255. Now, this hour, we're going to be joined by Professor Walter E. Williams. Now, just to give you a little information about him, he is a professor at George Mason University. He was chairman of the economics department for some time. He has a syndicated column. He's often on TV and radio, and he also is an occasional substitute host on the Rush Limbaugh program. And my understanding is that he's a very popular substitute guest host on the Rush Limbaugh program. And I believe that we have him on the line now.
Good morning.
Hey, how are you doing?
Okay.
Okay. Oh, it's so good to have you on the program again.
A real honor.
Okay. And also I'm joined by my co-host, Eliot Morgan. But the honor's for us, believe me, to have you on. So now, and I'll tell you, Professor Williams, we already have some people who are calling in.
Okay.
Because we've been promoting the fact that you will be on this week. And what really sparked my interest in bringing you on this particular time is a column that you wrote recently about reparations for slavery. And it seems that you've been following this issue for a number of years. And I was wondering, just first of all, how would you characterize this movement that people are trying to push for reparations for slavery?
Well, I'm not quite sure how you characterize it, but I'd say that it's like fiddling while Rome burns.
Okay.
And that there, first of all, there not going to be any payments for reparations for slavery.
Okay.
And then I think, but more important than that, is that the kind of problems that many Black Americans have are far more serious than the issue of reparations. For example, just recently the National Assessment on Education Progress report came out, and it says all Black kids starting out in the first grade, perhaps 1 of 8 will graduate from high school being able to read at the 12th grade level.
Wow. And
1 in 33 will be able to do math at the 12th grade level. And or if you look at the breakdown of the Black family, 35% of Black kids live in two-parent families. And 70% of Black kids are born out of wedlock. I mean, these are serious problems. And to talk about reparations, it's almost it's a joke, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, it seems like this is Casey Lartigue. It seems like it's much easier to focus on this kind of street theater where there's activism, but there's no real end result. But it's much easier than taking on these tough education issues.
Oh, yes. And then just some of the other issues. Like in Philadelphia last weekend, there were 10 murders. And so far this year, I think the number is around 115, 120. And it's not the Ku Klux Klan coming in here murdering these Black folks. It's other Black folks doing it.
Okay.
And Black folks, living in lives that, most of the Black community are law-abiding people. And these people live in fear of thugs preying on them. Bars at the windows. Now, to me, to a younger person, this might not be shocking, but I'm 71 years old, and I grew up in North Philadelphia in the Richard Allen Project. Matter of fact, right across the street from Bill Cosby.
Okay.
And these statistics about Black folks wasn't nearly as bad as when I was coming up. I mean, let's say in 1925 in Harlem, 85% of Black kids lived in two-parent families. As a matter of fact, across the United States, in other cities, the number ran somewhere between 70 and 80% of Black kids live in two-parent families, it's kind of a sad story that a lot of people will say, oh, well, the problem that Black people face today is a legacy of slavery. Well, if it's a legacy of slavery, it surely must skip some generations.
We're going to have to open the phone lines up to some babies' daddies in a moment.
Yeah. Now, one thing about reparations, because you've written quite a bit about it, is that it seems they've gone across several possible targets. They've targeted the federal government. They've targeted corporations. They've targeted individuals. Now they're going after state governments. And just within the last week, the University of Virginia, I guess they expressed regret for employing slave labor during the past.
Yeah.
So it seems that they're trying to find any target. Now, it seems that with the federal government that there's an obvious statute of limitations.
Well, I mean, I don't know whether there's a statute. There probably is a statute of limitations. But look, when people are talking about reparations, I think one of the things we have to acknowledge that no white person living today is responsible for slavery. And that is, I mean, if you ask me, I would say, yes, there should be reparations from those people who own slaves to those people who were slaves. But that's a matter that's going to have to be taken care of in heaven or hell, wherever the people are. And so what people are really saying today with this reparations, it says, let's compensate, let's take the money from individual A and give it to individual B for what individual C did individual E yesterday.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, what's the counter message to reparations? I mean, instead of focusing on that, what should the focus be on?
Well, I think the focus should be on things that we can do ourselves as black folks. Now, just take the issue of crime. Now, in Washington D.C., some years ago, there was a housing project, and drug dealers were taking it over, and the people from the Nation of Islam came down there and I don't know the name of the place, but they ran the drug dealers out of town.
Okay.
And ran them away. And I'll say the Nation of Islam people, they can do that because they don't feel like they have to issue Miranda warnings. They just say, you hit the road or we're going to kick your ass.
Exactly. Now, you wrote another column recently in which you talked about there are some very simple things that you can do. One was just graduate from high school.
Yeah. Well, I point out that to not be poor is not rocket science at all. I mean, I was saying that there are several things that you can do. Number one, graduate from high school. Number two, don't have children until you're married. And once you get married, stay married. Work at any kind of a job. And don't engage in criminal activity. Those four things, I mean, matter of fact, if you look at the Census Department statistics, you look at blacks who can be described as having graduated from high school, got married and stayed married, didn't have children before they're married. The poverty rate among that group of blacks is something like 8%, as opposed to the poverty rate among blacks in general, 25, 26, 27%. Mm-hmm. And matter of fact, most of the poverty among blacks is among female-headed households. Now, look, Casey. I mean, in terms of not having children before you're married, you have to. It's not like you're walking along the street, mind your own business, and all of a sudden you're pregnant. I mean, you have to do something in order to get pregnant. I mean, that is within your control.
Oh yeah. It's true. Now, I do wonder, why is it that so many corporations and board of directors, why have many of them given in to these demands?
Because many of them suffer from white guilt. And many of these people who are approaching the board of directors of companies, they have a very, very persuasive tune. I mean, they'll just tell a CEO, well, we're going to have pickets outside your building. And threaten them and mal them in various ways. And so they cave. Mm-hmm. And many times what they're doing, they might be handing over money and making concessions. It's not their own money. It's stockholders' money.
Mm-hmm. All right. Now, you're tuned to the Casey Lartigue Show with my co-host, Eliot Morgan. We're talking with Professor Walter E. Williams. And you just mentioned the issue of white guilt. Now, on your website, which I'll tell everyone is www.walterewilliams.com, you give out a gift.
Yeah, it's called a Certificate of Amnesty and Pardon to all Americans of European ancestry for both their own grievances against my people and those of their forebears. And the reason I say I want to give them amnesty and pardon so that they stop feeling guilty and stop acting like damn fools.
So if you'd like to read that, go to his website, walterewilliams.com, and just hit on the link that says gift.
Yeah, right.
I have a question. Dr. Williams?
Yes.
Has it been have we had any kind of breakdown of how these reparations would actually be paid? I mean, well, let's say if you had an ancestor who was a house Negro, because of his skilled labor, would he be paid more or less? Well, would the steel workers get less or more because they were working harder in the fields? And say if you had we were talking about Barack Obama earlier, and the thing is, this big controversy about him not being of West African descent. So would Barack Obama even be entitled to anything?
Well, even another question you might want to ask, and I don't have the answers to these questions, would blacks who have an ancestry who were, in fact, slave owners, because some blacks were slave owners, particularly in New Orleans and some parts of Virginia. And so would they be eligible for reparations? But when you talk about reparations, these people who are talking about reparations, they're not talking about the federal government handing out a $20,000 check to every black person. They're talking about the reparations money going to some kind of organization that they are in charge of.
Okay, yes, exactly. Well, we've got about 30 seconds left until the break. And Professor Williams, when we come back, we have a whole list of people who are waiting to talk to you.
Okay.
So hope you don't mind if we take a couple of calls. Our number is 1-866-801-8255. This is the Casey Lartigue Show. My name is Casey Lartigue. My co-host is Eliot Morgan, and we're talking with Professor Walter E. Williams about the issue of reparations for slavery.
You wanted the power. You
got the power.
XM 169. Your voice, your views, your chat. XM 169, the power.
Greetings and welcome back to the Casey Lartigue Show. My name is Casey Lartigue, host of the show. My co-host is Eliot Morgan. We are talking with George Mason University professor and economist Walter E. Williams about reparations for slavery. Now, I wanted to say one thing, that I would never go down to the government reparations office to try to get some cash. You'll never see me standing in that line, because that's like back when I was young and I had no money. I still never tried to, game the welfare system to get some money. But I'll tell you this, if the government mailed me a reparations check, I'd head directly to the bank to get that cash. And the other thing is that I wouldn't mind living tax-free. I mean, if the government gave me any excuse to live tax-free, I would take it. Okay. Oh, yeah. Because that's my own labor. I mean, that's not like going back and trying to get, some cash for somebody else's labor. If the government feels sorry for me or whatever and will let me live tax-free or for whatever reason, I would do it. Okay. And I cash all checks with my name on it, by the way. Okay. Now, we do have a bunch of people who've been waiting, and we'll start off with Anthony from New Mexico. He called in as soon as I said hello this morning. So let's go ahead and get Anthony on.
Hey, good morning, gentlemen. How we doing?
Oh, we're doing great.
I'm doing great out here in New Mexico, trying to get over here to Kansas City.
Okay.
I heard about your show today, and I was interested in what you guys would be saying, but I didn't get a chance to hear Rush's song until I think it was this week when Madison had it on his show. But I don't particularly listen to Rush's show because I don't really like a lot of the subject matter and the things that he said on the show. But I was somewhat offensive when he played that song comparing Snoop Dogg and America to Barack Obama, like not coming from the hood.
Okay, now, I'll say this. Professor Williams, before you came on, we actually played the Barack the Magic Negro clip that Rush Limbaugh has been playing.
Yeah.
And the Snoop Dogg reference was actually in the Los Angeles Times article.
Yeah,
this was not something that Rush Limbaugh just kind of made up. And as I said earlier, one thing that Rush Limbaugh does is take the words of people out there and turn them around and show just how foolish they are. So this was not Rush Limbaugh trying to just make this point. He just took what was there and used it for his own purposes. And I think he did it brilliantly.
Well, thank you for informing me on that issue because I didn't even know that.
Yeah, if you look up, the Los Angeles, there's an article written by, I believe his name, David Ehrenstein. He's a black writer based in Los Angeles. He wrote the piece, and Rush Limbaugh read it on the air on March 19th, denounced the piece, and then he basically said, look, I'm going to make fun of this. So,
well, like you said, you're not going to get Rush fired for that. It's not going to happen.
Exactly. Yeah, we'll talk a little more about that later on in the program. Okay, but thanks for calling in, Anthony.
Reparations are going to happen either.
Okay.
And so, Anthony, I think what we need to focus on are some things that we can do and some things that are very, very important that are critical for Black folks.
Okay. All right. Hey, Anthony, thanks a lot for calling in. Okay. Okay. We can really hear it. I think there was a lot of noise there. Okay. All right. We've got Carla in Virginia who's calling in.
Good morning, gentlemen. It's a pleasure talking to you. First time calling.
All right.
Good morning,
Welcome.
Carl.
I've got one thing to say. You guys are not going to agree with me, but everybody, I encourage your audience to get Al Franken's book, Rush Limbaugh is a Big Fat Lying Idiot. Have a great day.
Now, see, hey, Carla, that's the opposite of profound. All right, but thanks for calling in. Anyway. Thanks for trying.
The title of the book, actually.
Okay. Yeah, and the other thing is that obviously Rush Limbaugh has lost, I guess, about 40 pounds, so some people are still living in the past. Okay. Renfro from Kentucky. Now, let me remind you, we have Professor Walter E. Williams on.
How you doing, gentlemen?
Doing great.
I'm going to ask you just one question, then I'm going to make a comment. Is your guest a Republican?
Well, I am not a member. I've never been a member of any political party.
That's all I was needing to know because I asked these hosts the same question last week. It's a thing called common sense. Now, granted, I grew up in Alabama. My folks went through a lot of mess in Alabama, and I know you can't deny that this stuff went on back in the 60s of the way blacks were mistreated back then. But I say this: why we as a people haven't done what we need to do for each other, but we sit around and fuss and argue, and we give. All what happened with Barack Obama in that situation, when you sit up here and you argue amongst one another, guess what? You give people ammunition against you.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Hey, Renfro, thanks for calling in again. Okay. Professor Williams, I don't know if you had a response to him or.
No. Well, I would just, I think that he's marked right in the sense that
we got
to do those kind of things that we can do ourselves. I mean, just to police our neighborhoods, make our kids go to school, make our kids do homework, make them read, and take them to educational places and things like that. Those are things that, number one, you don't need a whole lot of money to do, and number two, the white man can't do anything about it. The white man can't stop your kids from reading and stop doing their homework.
Okay, exactly. Okay, let's see. Next, we've got Gary in Indiana. Gary, welcome to the Casey Lartigue Show.
How you doing, Casey?
Doing great.
Yeah, my comment is if white people got wealthy off of slaves, I think they owe them people. And if you want to know how to pay them, make them tax exempt, like you're making everybody else to come in this country, and they can create jobs and be able to have jobs for the people who growing up in this community. They always got to go to a white person to get a job. Why can't they? If they had reparations, they would own them corner stores and be able to employ their own people, and then they'll have those things that you're talking about that they don't have or be able to,
Well, look, let's hold it right there, because I think you brought up a point. Now, in terms of economic activity, blacks owning stores. Now, when I was growing up, and again, I told you I'm 71 years old, so I saw some things that younger people hadn't seen. Like, I grew up in North Philadelphia in the Richard Island housing project, and along streets like Poplar Street, Columbia Avenue, and other places were viable economic centers. at a time when there's far more racial discrimination in our country, and there are also black-owned stores. Now, today, those same areas are economic wasteland. And why? Because these thugs that prey on us, they are equal opportunity thugs. That is, they'll rip off a black store just as soon as they rip off a white store. And they'll make economic activity impossible in these particular neighborhoods. You know, poor folks in various cities, they have to get on buses and trolley cars or drive their car out to suburban malls to be able to do their shopping, unless they want to go a mom and pop type store. And it's not the Klan doing this, it's black people doing it.
Yeah, I agree, but I agreed back in the day before Martin Luther King tried to get us to get together. There was black businesses then, but they got rid of the black businesses, and now
who got rid of black businesses? It's black people got rid of black businesses.
You don't think they got rid of?
Yeah. Okay. Hey, Gary, thanks for calling in. We just have about 3 minutes left. So, yeah, I'm sorry, but there's so many people. I want to get to as many people as possible. We got Deanan from New York calling in.
Hey, good morning, Casey. Deneen Borelli calling from New York.
Okay, how are you doing?
Project 21, how you doing? Okay. Hello, Dr. Williams. It's good to talk to you.
Hi, Deneen.
Just saw you a few days ago. Thanks a lot. Reparations, in my view, it's another way of maintaining the lazy mindset that blacks are entitled to handouts and special treatments just because it's black. And we need to bring about more information to the black community, especially young kids, that you got to work hard, you got to do the right thing, and not expect handouts. But my question to you, Dr. Williams, is if you could comment on the states that are recently coming out with these national apologies, former slave states that are apologizing for slavery, and where will it end? Are blacks going to leave those states if these states don't step up and say, hey, we apologize?
Well, first, it does not mean anything. It's nothing substantive to these apologies. Now, I wrote a column about Virginia apologizing, and I said what Virginia ought to do if the Commonwealth of Virginia, the Assembly, wants to apologize for something, they ought to apologize for the police not being able to protect black people in their neighborhoods. They ought to apologize for the fraudulent education that black kids are getting. The average black person does not know, and it's so tragic that we don't know, that black kids that graduate from high school, a black kid who graduates from high school, on the average, he can read no better and do math no better than a 6th or 7th grade white kid. I mean, and so in my column I said those are the kind of things they ought to apologize for, the fraudulent education that is giving a kid a diploma that testifies that he can read and write at 12th grade level when he can't read and write at 6th and 7th grade level.
Absolutely.
Okay. Hey, thanks a lot for calling in. We've got less than a minute left, I believe, until the break. Professor Williams, obviously you are a man in great demand. I hope you will be able to return to the program from time to time.
Oh, yes, thanks. And talking to you and Eliot.
Oh, yeah, it's definitely been great. And actually, you know what? Your colleague Tom Sowell has agreed to come on the program very soon.
Oh, great. And he is a brilliant scholar. And I think he's working on his 33rd book.
Yeah, well, as you said on the show before, he writes with both hands.
That's right.
So I appreciate that you took some time with us today.
Okay, Casey.
All right, thanks a lot. Okay. All right. Okay, we'll be going to a break now. Sorry, everyone couldn't get a chance to talk to Professor Williams, but he'll be back from time to time, so you'll have other opportunities. So this is the Casey Lartigue Show on XM 169, The Power.
You wanted the power.
Got the power.
XM 169. Your voice, your views, your chat. XM 169, The Power.